I called my mom and I said, listen, I'm in trouble. I've been messing with this heroin and it has a hold of me. And she said, I said, I need to come home. She said, no, you can't come here.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wait a minute. I said, you said I could always come home. I said, no,
Man,
you can't bring that here.
you can't bring that here.
So I said, Mom, please, I'm dying here. She said, okay, you can come home, but when you get off that plane, you're going directly into rehab.
Welcome to the NEXCUE Mindset. I'm Stephen Garner, your host, the resilient life expert. And today I have the Honorable Counselor Russell Bates. He is a seasoned leader whose life bridges the pulpit, the battlefield, and the front lines of emotional and spiritual crisis. Raised on Chicago's South Side, he was grounded early in faith and service. He attended Oakwood University, studying theology from 1971 to 1975, a period marked by personal struggles that gave him firsthand insight into the cultural and spiritual battles facing young adults. After a redemptive turning point, he joined the U.S. Army in 1981, serving with distinction in the 82nd Airborne Division and the Judge Advocate General's Corps. Over a 23-year military career, including 4 combat tours, he built a reputation for courage, ethical leadership, and pastoral care in high-stress environments. His marriage to Margie Smith Bates and the raising of their son, Kyler, were pillars of strength during his service years. Retiring in 2005, Pastor Bates earned a master's in counseling and dedicated himself to trauma recovery, working as a school therapist in Michigan's inner city schools and a crisis intervention assessor for 3 emergency rooms where he specialized in suicide and overdose cases. His unique blend of military precision, spiritual depth, and clinical empathy made him a sought after voice on mental health, resilience, and moral leadership. Since relocating to Austin in 2022, he has embraced full-time grandfatherhood while continuing to mentor, speak, and serve as GPOT to 2 young granddaughters. He remains a powerful example of generational impact, living proof that purpose evolves but never retires. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to dig deep into the psyche of a man who has had many experiences and had the power and knowledge to help transform lives. Man, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Now, before we start, I would like to do something.
Yes, sir.
I want to have a word of prayer. Can I do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Father, I ask you to speak through me today and my brother Stephen. Lord, we are celebrating life and we ask that there's some soul who needs encouragement. May we not sensationalize anything, but Lord, we ask for your forgiveness ahead of time. Amen.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. Because this is the real deal. We're on the real battlefield, changing minds. Okay, so looking back um, at your life and your youth, just give me a voyeur's perspective on the challenges you face very young and some of the things you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I look back when you look at a career, whether it be a alcohol career, a drug career, you look at the early
But
stage
you put it
of your
like that.
career. So, I think my career began in the alley behind Shiloh Church.
Hmm.
The fellas, my little group of friends, I guess we call ourselves the VOs because we were drinking vodka at that time.
Oh, wow.
Unapproved vodka at 13 years old. I mean, come on, I started my career with a bang.
Oh, man.
So, and then of course the marijuana and all the other stuff. Because I mean, this is 68, 69, and then 71 to 75, I'm in college. So, my career was laden with madness. So, starting out drinking after MV, behind the church, I guess before the social, in between that little period of just after sundown, in the alleys behind the church. So we had a guy that looked a lot older. He had a beard at 15, 14, 15. So he'd go in the liquor store and make the purchase, and also my parents, I asked them many times about this. They allowed me to drive the car into the city from the suburbs, and I didn't have a license. I was like, well, what were y'all doing? What were y'all thinking? So I think, I really don't understand that. My dad, I'm gonna have to ask him about that again when I talk to him again. He'll be 99 next month. So, and he's still kicking high.
Oh
So
man, you don't want to ask him that question. Just let it
no,
be.
I really need to know what. Now that we're talking about this, I'm looking back. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm sure I asked him about it, but I don't remember the answer.
So your father was a pastor, and you are what they call a PK,
Yeah,
who's kid. Uh, what kind of challenges were associated with that, and also benefits?
yeah. Well, there was great benefit. I mean, you go to any church that my father was speaking at, they always had the big dinner afterward, and all the sisters are fawning over.
Oh
Uh, you
man.
know, my mom, she was always very cool. She didn't participate in Sabbath school. She said, "My three sons is my job. I'm not fooling with y'all at all." So she didn't do anything as far as Sabbath school or playing the piano or none of that. So there was a great benefit in being a PK, and I think that as it went on into life, you realize you're not that special. You are just like everybody else. So understanding that and facing that probably was one of the difficulties of having that privilege.
Mhm. Having to manage that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, so you go from the church life, and now you go to college, and during a time where there was a lot of activities as you described them, there was more sex, drugs, and other things going on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, there was a lot of guys coming back from Vietnam, um, and so they brought a lot of some products along with them to Oakwood, and there was a couple guys from Jamaica that back then you could travel with things. There wasn't dogs and all this kind of
Right.
stuff. So I mean, it was pretty amazing. And then A&M right up the street. There was a lot of jumping out of windows of the dorm on Saturday nights, going to parties, and as often even they had one night nobody was at worship in any of the places of worship, the dorms. So they took a bus and went searching and found us at a club and went the teachers and authorities came in there and gathered up those who did
Out of the
not
bus?
want to, yeah, and put them on the bus back to the campus.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Some of the stuff that happened.
So you and during this time you still have a struggle with different substances.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because at Oakwood, we were out there out in the country, so there was very little regulation as far as and and anything that we got our hands on, it seemed that was the time we were using, cough syrup, uh, just on and on. And then there was the good stuff of everything, whereas the marijuana, cocaine, all that stuff was the best out there. because they were bringing it in from overseas as well as you know, pretty unregulated over at A&M and UAH and other that we sought to party with. Yeah.
Was it youthful curiosity, or was there some pain you were trying to self-medicate?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of pain that I was dealing with um, from growing up, and I think that there was during my therapy, I ended up in a rehab center after I got out of Oakwood. I went to a therapeutic community.
Mhm.
And while there, it was a 18-month program. Because let me back up a little bit. I called my mom and I said, listen, I'm in trouble. I've been messing with this heroin and it has a hold of me. And I said, I need to come home. She said, no, you can't come here.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wait a minute. I said, you said I could always come home. He said, no,
Man,
you can't bring that here.
you can't bring that here.
So I said, Mom, please, I'm dying here. She said, okay, you can come home, but when you get off that plane, you're going directly into a rehab program.
Hmm.
I said, okay, all right, I'm coming home. So sure enough, I landed. He took me straight to I think it was called Second Genesis. It was a rehab facility. So, I get in there and I'm acting like I'm running things. I'm talking to everybody and la la la. I'm doing therapy and I'm supposed to be in therapy. My normal operation. I'm not looking at my problems. I'm looking at everybody else's problems. So, of course, they let that go on for a while and then they body slammed me. And I had to wear a sign. It said, I will compromise myself for your acceptance. Ask me why.
Hmm.
So that really began the journey into back to mental health, or some semblance of mental health. So that was the starting point. And then looking at, I never wanted to be a minister. That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but that wasn't it.
Is that what you were
But
studying at Oakwood?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I went through a couple counseling, music, something else I tried. But so my junior year, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be one of these 5-year, 6-year students. I got to get out of here. So Elder Mosley, I think it was Elder Mosley. He was like, you know what, you already know the stuff. Why don't you go ahead and bite the bullet? So I was okay.
And
So
he didn't know what you were dealing with.
no,
No idea.
yeah, because I was actually he had allowed me to be in and direct part time the men's chorus at Oakwood. So I was in the Elder Mosley's male chorus. And we were pretty bad boys. We did some traveling right there in the community, and so that's what I did. I went theology, and I was a student from there. Because I grew up hearing all this stuff.
You're a pastor's kid,
So
so you
yeah,
know
I
stuff.
mean, it was
Firsthand.
already there.
Right.
Yeah, so I easily, you know, finished that up, and I had a. So then I got married and went to. No, actually, I didn't go right then. I did some more foolishness. I hitchhiked from Maryland to L.A.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh my
This
goodness!
after rehab or before rehab?
No, this is pre-rehab.
Okay. Okay. So
Pre-rehab,
you
yeah,
go. So
yeah,
you from Maryland to where were
yeah.
you going, man?
I don't know, and so there was this. I was dating this girl from the Azores, and so she was like, "Hey, let's hitchhike cross country." I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." So I went to my parents' house, and then they're watching me walk out the house, just shaking their head, this boy, man, what is going on? So I did. I hitchhiked from Maryland to LA. Took 3 days and 35 rides.
That sounds like a movie.
Oh man, it was quite the experience. It was quite the experience.
Well, these are strangers. You're getting in car,
Yeah, and
but like,
and people were, and I mean, I think the Holy Spirit and the angels was right there with me because I mean, people picked me up. I mean, a matter of fact, when we got to Denver, Colorado, um, the people that picked us up took us home to their house. They let us sleep in the bed, and they slept on the couch.
what? They
Then
don't
got
believe
up
you.
and fed us and took us the rest of the way to our wherever we were going to continue to. I mean, it's just things like that. People,
Wow, man.
not having had experience in driving trucks. The guy, 18 wheeler, he let me drive while he slept, and went to a certain point and then get out. People picked us up. It was every ride was an experience. And had a great, great time.
So you go from rehab. Did you go to the military after that?
So yeah, I was from Oakwood, I went to this little foolishness hiking experience, and then when I got back from that, I no, wait a minute, let's back up. So I went to Oakwood and then went doing that hitchhiking trip, and then um, got married, and then went as assistant pastor in a church in Altadena.
Wow.
So, oh man,
You can't make this stuff up, man. This is
no, you cannot make it up. You can't
wow.
make it up. You cannot make
Hey,
it up.
you're a pastor.
I'm a pastor. I'm an assistant pastor. I'm up in the pulpit
Yeah.
preaching. I'm going to prison ministry. Me and my little wife, she's playing, I'm singing. It was. I was really trying to be what I did not want to be. I thought this is it. I have to do this because this is what I'm the best that I've been at.
But you didn't want to do it.
No, I did not.
Okay.
Did not. Did not. And it finally showed when yeah, you can't make this stuff up. So anyway, I decided because I was really struggling with the drugs and alcohol then.
While you're doing that.
Yeah, while I'm
So you're
doing
you're preaching Jesus.
I'm preaching,
And
and then,
you're smoking trees,
during the day, I'm,
going back to rocket, hitting the back of the
go-
throat. Like the sermons were probably bad too. Like,
powerful.
man, I know everybody like
Yeah,
man can preach.
yeah,
Under the influence.
yeah. And so while I'm doing this, I'm thinking, the Lord, the bears are gonna come out of the woods and get me. I need to get out of here.
Oh
So
man.
I say, okay, so I'm gonna go and that's my first drug rehab.
Mm.
So I went, my wife, actually, the elder Patey, Lorenzo Patey, he was like my supervisor.
Mhm.
And he took me, drove me down there, went to the rehab. And of course, once again, I get in there and I'm doing the counseling. I'm playing the piano, I'm laughing and joking, and then there was a house next door that was abandoned. So me and this guy, we go in there looking around and find all this jewelry, fine jewelry. And so I put it in a pillowcase and take it back to my room. Of course, we go out on a food run and they search all the rooms and find this jewelry.
Mhm.
Call the police.
Oh man.
I end up in jail.
Oh man.
5 days receiving stolen property. So, of course, Elder Lorenz Patey comes down, gets me out. and then takes me to I moved into the YMCA in Pasadena.
Mm,
So at that point, I'm contemplating suicide.
mm,
I'm thinking, this is a mess. This cannot. It's no way this can end good.
mhm.
So I'm standing there in the window, looking out, thinking, I'm thinking, wait a minute. I am not jumping out this window and people say Russell Bates killed himself over some woman.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm not
We
jumping.
having that, right?
I'm not doing that. I'm not
Right.
doing that. So, I hung in there and, once again, I'm always, I think what kept me was I was always talking to the Lord,
You never stop.
even in my craziest,
Never stop.
and that was one thing that I think my parents instilled in me that, no matter what is going on, you have to keep talking to him,
Keep talking.
keep talking to him
Mm.
because he has his hand on you.
Yes, sir.
He is guiding you to where you're going to need to be, but you have to keep talking. No matter what, no matter where you find yourself, how ashamed, how beaten, how painful, you have to keep talking to them. And once again, I came through that, and um, that's when I decided. I said, okay, I need to get somewhere where I'm not wasting time. These years are going by, and I'm sitting, I'm in the YMCA. Wait a minute.
Right. That wasn't
This
the
is
dream.
not
That wasn't the dream.
this is not the journey that
Yeah,
I took.
right. Right.
So that's when I joined the army.
So you go into the army.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So and then, because that was something I always wanted to do, even
Okay.
as a child. I'm watching Rat Patrol and Combat, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing myself jumping out of planes, blowing up stuff in tanks and
Yeah.
shooting up stuff. And sure enough, I was able to fulfill all those dreams and more. All the helicopters. I was in the tank regiment, hanging out with them boys. Yeah, and then also when I went overseas, I got to hang out with the Foreign Legion,
Oh
Dutch
wow.
Special Forces,
Oh wow, man.
all the big boys. Did a 100-mile march, an 89-mile march. Marching with these other soldiers.
Hmm.
Just really the camaraderie is pretty amazing. Pretty
Did you
amazing.
find that people are the same no matter where you were?
Oh yeah, yeah. People really, really are. And I mean the love that I got, like the Dutch Special Forces, they have these marches over in Europe where you'll march 100 miles over 4 days, 25 miles a day.
Hmm.
And these are civilians. I mean, it's a big deal. Thousands of people come and participate. So the Army had several teams, and was in charge of the team, and we practiced for about 6 months prior to the march. Marching up to 18 miles, and so that because you had 16 people, and all of them had to complete the march in order to get the cool badge. So
Hmm.
we did it. So
Wow.
and then well, during that time, I got a blister in my foot that went probably a half inch deep into my heel. And I was like, I'm done, guys. I can't do this. And one of the Dutch Special Forces, and this was back in what 80, probably 92, 93. They had this second skin, and he put it on my heel and taped it. I couldn't tell which foot was injured, and went on and finished the march. And but yeah, and these guys, they come to the base there in Germany, come over our house. We go spend the weekend in Holland. People are the same.
People are
People
the same.
really, yes,
So you have this military experience and you start to figure out what you want in life, right?
yeah,
That helped shape the direction that you wanted to go because you ended up being a counselor. All these experiences, would you say they were part of the process of helping you become a counselor from your perspective?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I think really dealing with that struggle really allowed me to really see what a person is experiencing that wants, that feels so bad that they want to take their life.
Hmm.
I don't want to die, but I don't want to be here.
Hmm.
You know, that pain and being able to speak to that and get them to that place to want to live, but actually really knowing that feeling, that dark, heavy feeling that you carry around, and you just want it to be over. I think all of that, you know, just seeing combat and what man does to what we do to each other in war, uh, you know, just the horrors of war, you know, seeing it firsthand. I think that also, you know, really gives you an insight into the mind.
You're in the school system working. What was that like?
Well, it was a pretty, now when I got out of the army, they had this program called Troops to Teachers.
Okay.
So, you know, they gave you all the equipment you needed, everything. You're gonna be a teacher. So I got to Berrien Springs, and a friend of mine, Ramona Menacee, she was a teacher. And she said, you know, Russell, you're gonna get in trouble if you don't do something special. You come on to the inner city, Benton Harbor, and that's where you need to teach. Man, I got in there. Them kids ran me out of there. They jumping all over the desks,
Oh man.
running around, fighting, just clown.
Oh gosh.
And them kids, like I said, they ran me out of there. So I refused to be run out of anywhere. I
Hmm.
went back and got my master's in the Army paid for it to get my master's in counseling. And I went back to that school and was a therapist for 5 years. And that one-on-one really worked for me, you know, because the teachers, they would call me to the room to get Shaquina or Lakeisha or, you know, Ray Ray. You know, they would call me and I'd just stand in the door. But they knew because, you know, I always had snacks and stuff in my office. And they knew that I knew what they were feeling. You know, I really could feel just the pain and sadness that they were experiencing, and talk them to the place where, you know, you can deal with this. You have the strength to get through this, and this is how you do it.
What's the number one thing that you would say a person who's struggling with an addiction or any challenge they need to remember?
The first thing I would say anytime in an interview, I would say, I am so proud of you that you did not take your life and came to this place. I'm really proud of you.
Mhm.
And that would really catch them off guard.
Hmm.
Oh, wait a minute, someone is proud of me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You start there, and then, you know, it really catch them off guard, and then you're able to really, okay, now what happened? How did you get to this place? You
Yeah.
know, just take me through it. You know, how did you get to the hospital room? I need you to tell.
Hmm.
And then, you know, going through that experience, and then you can see where, you know, what could you have done differently at this very point? Well, let's talk about that. And then it really get people to thinking about the situation rather than the pain that they're experiencing, and to begin to focus on that rather than the sadness and the pain.
It's part of the challenge of people struggling with any type of addiction or even contemplating suicide, really not accepting the fact that their life is valuable.
Say it again. What was the last part of the question?
is part of the challenge of people struggling with suicide or any addiction, not understanding that their life is valuable. Or another way to say it, they don't see the value. Is that part of the challenge, the value in their life?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of the challenge. But I think really
Mm.
is looking back, because see, if you're using drugs and alcohol to the point where it is your life is compromised, there is something that you are trying to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something that you are trying to escape. There's something that you're trying to cover and soothe. There's a
Yeah.
hurt there that you're trying to work on. And having the courage to finally face it, because a lot of times people don't, they say they don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know why I'm drinking. I don't know why I'm hurting. But the reason is there. You know, something happened that you are now covering it continuously. So first getting to that, and then the physical part of the emotional part of the withdrawal, because you've been, you know, bathing your senses for years,
Hmm.
and now you're getting ready to experience life at its fullest. All the disappointments, all the things that you escaped, you're going to feel firsthand. You know, and it's not going to be easy. And I think a lot of people avoid therapy because it's too painful, too painful.
And that's why there's this great stigma. It's not necessarily that they don't believe therapy is good,
Yeah,
but they don't want to address the pain, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that pain is crushing because I remember actually the point where I began to do the work. You know, and I kept avoiding it at all costs. You know, I was actually I've been several stints in therapy. One, the longest was in the Army, a 6 week program, inpatient. You had counseling in the morning, you had group therapy in the afternoon. Every night you went to an AA meeting. In Korea, I mean, there would be 250 people in AA meetings.
Wow.
I mean, it was big. The therapeutic community over there, huge. I'm talking a church service AA meeting.
Oh man.
That's how big they were.
Wow.
How big they were. So, you know, I had every night had to go to a meeting. So during that time, there was a period where at 2 weeks, they would bring you in a room and ask you three simple questions. You know, why? I don't even remember what the question was. It was like, why are you here? Um, should you stay? And something else. Just three simple questions that they would ask you. And then they would determine whether you would finish the program. If you weren't doing the work, you know, they send you up out of it. It was $75,000 per person.
Whoa.
So they asked me the question, and I'm abba dabba, abba, abba. And my wife is sitting over there. And finally, it just hit me. They said, why won't you get into this and do the work? Why not? And it just hit me, and I just screamed, it's too painful.
Mhm.
It is too painful.
Mm.
And just from there, I began to, you know, the multi-year journey
Mm.
to sobriety. Because after that 6 weeks, you know, probably went, you know, a couple years sober, and then I had a relapse, and then I went 12 years
Mm.
clean and sober. You know, and then, you know, my son got in trouble, and, you know, I'm dealing with that and start sipping, you know, a little wine in the evening. Next thing you know, I'm back in the bottle.
Oh man.
So then back to the Lord. Lord, please, again, can you heal me again? Because I didn't tell you about the initial healing. I was in Germany, and Elder Barron came over for a just to meet with the soldiers, Adventist soldiers.
Mhm.
So I pulled him aside and said, "Elder Marion, look, I've been struggling with something for like 20 years. I've been drinking a fifth of vodka every day as long as I can remember. I'm dying." And he said he didn't even flinch. He said, we can handle that. He put his arm around me and prayed for me. And in that moment, I mean, it was healed. There was the desire was gone. My liver, my kidneys, all that was restored. I
Mm,
could actually feel the healing.
mm,
And it was pretty amazing situation. And I mean, just his prayer and my desire for healing, it happened. So, the miracle is still out there. So somebody, if I know you're feeling like you're going to die. I mean, you are so consumed with this addiction that it would seem like it would be easier to die. But I'm telling you, the Lord, He is right there. And when you ask seriously, because see, there was a long period of time when I was praying about it, but I was really asking, Lord, let me drink without drama. You know, can I can I can I hit
ain't gonna do
the
it.
Courvoisier
Yeah.
with the Hennessy? Can I get that without the drama?
Yeah.
So finally, Lord, okay, he's serious. He really is serious about this, and then that's when the healing came.
Mm,
But once again, I over the years, 12 years, so like I said, something happened and I started sipping back in the bottle.
mm,
So this goes on, and then again, I see, because you always will see that when you get to a certain point where it's stop or die,
mm,
you'll see that point in the horizon, and then
yeah.
hopefully, Lord, please, I'm ashamed that I have to come to you again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm ashamed, but Lord, can you do this again?
And you do it again.
Can you do it again? He did. He did it again. So I'm in the garage in Berrien Springs. It's wintertime. I step out of the car and I'm throwing up this black tar light into the snow.
Mm,
So went to the emergency room, was in excruciating pain for like 4 days. So
mm,
they couldn't find anything. Once again, the Lord was like, okay. And I knew it was him because they could not find any symptoms.
mm,
Now I'm in the hospital 4 days. They're doing CAT scans, all these checks, all this. There was no symptoms at all. The Lord was really like, okay, this is it.
this is it,
Okay,
man.
one more, one more time.
And one more
Don't let
time.
me have to bring you here again for this same problem.
One more time.
So once again, feeling good. The damage is has been eradicated. The healing one more time.
Mm,
So
man.
the Lord He is so merciful,
Mm,
so merciful, and so good. Because
man.
that should not even be here.
Shouldn't be here.
Should not be here. My organs should be in a jar somewhere.
Oh, God.
This is what happens. Yeah. But he did it again. And with all the struggles that I have, dealing with all that the women and being in the service overseas for all the different countries. People love soldiers. They love that uniform. They love soldiers. And plus, you're in a country where you're building schools or so the
You're
people are
making a
very
positive
grateful. Yeah,
contribution. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that.
Man, listen, I want to tell you, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom and the stories, man. And we next time, man, we're gonna do it over a plate of food because I know you're a bad cook. Because
All right, all right.
because your cousin was like, "Oh, my cousin is down. He's cooking." And I'm like, and I'd be so jealous. I'm like, man, why are you telling me? Why didn't you just invite me?
Yeah,
Like,
no. Well, when I come, I'll be
man,
sure to call when I hit there.
oh
We
man,
we hit Cincinnati pretty often.
yeah, man. Thank you so much today. I
Mhm.
really mean it, and I know someone will receive the gift that you have given, and it will transform their life. Listen, audience, I want you to take your cues from Counselor Bates and live a great life. Next cue. Thank you for listening. I'm on a mission to teach the world how to develop a resilient mindset to overcome all their challenges. You might be wondering, why am I bent on accomplishing this feat? Well, it's simple. When I was at my worst and lowest moment, many people poured into my life and helped me to overcome all my challenges. When I asked them what was their motivation, they simply said someone did it for them. And then they asked me to make a promise to do it for someone else. You can help me to fulfill that promise by simply subscribing today and help me to teach the world how to live their best life. I'm Stephen Garner. Take your cues from me and live a great life. Next cue. Let's go, baby.